I was rehumanized by women in prison who, leading up to prison, I would have never taken the time to speak to those women, to get to know them, to understand them. I wouldn't have treated them like human beings. I chose to be racist. I chose to dehumanize other people. I chose to do any number of horrific things to make myself feel better. As a child, I would hear things like, "You're my daughter, I'll always love you, but never bring home a black person or another woman." Even though I was raised with racism and homophobia, those weren't beliefs that I, carried around. Around the age of 15, met a group of newly recruited neo-Nazi skinheads. It was more that sense of belonging and acceptance that landed me there, and that led to about 8 years of my involvement in the violent far right. When I was 23, I went to prison for my part in a hate crime. It was an armed robbery of a Jewish-owned store. When I was released from prison in 2001, I started college. I was horrified at the thought that my brain was hardwired. I could see a person of color and automatically think a racial slur, and I cannot even begin to express the anguish of the shame, the guilt, knowing that that was something I couldn't control. That motivated me to change it. I learned about things like racial inequality and white privilege. I started to develop a completely different perspective. I started speaking and doing outreach and trying to make amends for the horrible things that I did, which led me to co-founding an organization called Life After Hate, which is the only nonprofit in the U.S. actively working to help individuals exit the violent far right. When needed, we do interventions. We run support networks where we try to help individuals come back to being responsible, non-violent, functioning members of society. There are precursors to people becoming involved that have nothing to do with ideology. Cases where people have suffered trauma, they've been abused. It does not negate their responsibility in the hateful acts they commit or the things that they do, but it's required if we are going to have a deeper understanding of why these things are happening and why people are getting involved. When I first saw what happened at Charlottesville, there was that immediate retreat into myself. That guilt can become very overwhelming. I frantically think, I haven't done enough. A lot of what we see happening around us, the anger, the hate, it's not new. When we have a current administration who refuses to speak out about blatant hatred, about racism, that sends a very clear message to the people who hold those beliefs that it's okay to hurt people who aren't white. When I go about things today, I don't think of my story as poor Angela, poor white girl went through all this stuff. There are so many people that have much harder lives than I had, than I could ever dream of having. They didn't make the decisions that I did. I no longer do this because I have this toxic shame or because I feel like I have to make amends. I do this because this is the right thing to do.